Hi, welcome everybody to all the listeners and followers out there. My name is Paul Cummings, and I am the founder of Veterans Breaking into IT and Cybersecurity. I am a 20-year Navy IT with cybersecurity background. Looking for my next career in cybersecurity. I no longer want to do, RMF type infosec. Um, I said it before, we are going to start hosting some segments that I like to call Shotgun. This is kind of a preliminary to what the events will be. Um, the reason I want to host these is I want to give you the driving seat and the power to showcase how you use a home lab in order to apply for a job. Now, this could be anybody that has never done IT, just by the luck of the draw. Let's say you were a cook for 12 years. But you took some IT classes, you took some cybersecurity classes, found out that's where your passion is that you want to be. And this goes in hand when we talk about entry level positions. I won't go into super detail on it, but even entry level positions nowadays are calling for unicorns, right? So using a lab can help you identify the KSAs that they're looking for on job posts. With me, I have Alex Rhodes. He's got well over 2 decades in the IT cyberspace as well, more so in digital forensics. Currently working under a contract under the Space Force, so very impressive. I believe he is just waiting for his letter for his master's, if I'm not mistaken. Now without further ado, I'll let Alex talk a little bit about himself.
Okay. So I was an Army CID agent, retired as the Assistant Special Agent in charge of the Digital Forensics Research Branch. So we did digital forensics research, tool testing for Army CID. Transitioned over to civilian life and started working cybersecurity after my time in the Army. So previously I had a digital forensics computer at the home where I would practice and just mess around with things outside of work. Kind of let that go. I switched to cybersecurity. Haven't done a whole lot of digital forensics, and working on my cybersecurity masters and family life, I really haven't used it. So that previously was a dual Xeon server that I repurposed as a workstation. Pretty expensive to run. If you're going to use it long term, it's a lot of electricity. So I've been looking for something that I can work on something, leave it running if I need, and just kind of rebuild. Something cheap, free is always good. Transitioning more towards cybersecurity, malware analysis, and more network forensics. So as mentioned, I work with Peraton, and contract now is defensive cyber ops. So I'm a cyber engineer, cyber architect with the US Space Force. So I have an old AMD Phenom. It's a 6-core, 6-thread processor. That's the main VM machine that I'm using. I picked up 6th gen i5 that I'm using to run Rock NSM. So it's open source version of Elasticsearch. So I put an extra NIC in there. So I'm running dual NICs. So I have a management port, and then I'm able to span the switch that I have, and any traffic, anything I'm running on that network, I'm able to capture and run through there. So if I have any malware I'm looking at that's trying to reach out, I can capture it and see what's going on.
Awesome. So a lot of the stuff that you've used is repurposed.
Yes.
With our users and listeners out there, what kind of specs would you go for? Let's say I'm trying to host, let's say 6 VMs at the most. It's a little bit outrageous because you don't need that many.
Yeah. Well, it depends on what you're trying to do. I mean, if you're, are you actively hosting, a server and multiple workstations and running analysis and things at the same time? you're gonna want something a little more beefy. If you're just running a couple of instances of a workstation and maybe one analysis workstation, you won't need as much. I mean, with the Phenom that I have, it's not the greatest. I mean, it's 6 core, 6 thread, it's 16 gigs of RAM. I could probably run two, maybe get away with 3 VMs at one point in time. I mean, it's not going to be super powerful, but for a home lab, you're not going to run a whole bunch. I mean, when I did tool tests, doing forensics, you know, so everything that I did back at the lab, we would have a domain set up for Windows. Most everything we ran was a Windows domain. So I'd have a domain controller that was typically server 12. And this was back in Windows 7, Windows 10 crossover time. So I'd have 2 workstations, Windows 7 and Windows 10 running. And I would run the test on all 3 at the same time. So there'd be 3 VMs running, and then I would capture whatever I'm going to do and then analyze it on a standalone box. So I'd have no more than 3 VMs running doing that.
Awesome.
So
That's a good segue point. So I mentioned this in our Discord study group that myself and Alex are mentors of. You know, we have a lot of up and coming talent that, you know, are getting the brick wall, so to say, when they're applying for jobs. A few of them that we've helped that took, you know, the motivation, took their passion a little bit more serious, started creating their home labs. They, you know, this became fruitful. You know, I got somebody a job doing pen testing. I got someone a job doing Azure. You know, and I'm in the middle of getting someone a skill bridge, DoD skill bridge to do threat analysis. So I will share my screen and we will go over a couple of the free resources. Free being the key word, right?
it's always good.
If you have a strong enough laptop already, you don't need to pay for anything. All right. It's
Yeah.
when you start adventuring and getting more curious is when you want to start putting money into it. And
Yeah.
I think at the most, Alex has probably spent in the upwards of $600.
Actually, I think less. So a
Less?
switch, yeah, I bought a switch that gets Spain that was about 25. Workstation was, I think, 350. That extra NIC was about 15. So everything else was repurposed from around the house. Old laptop,
Okay.
old Wi-Fi router. So yeah.
And that's the other cool thing, right? So in another segment, we can talk about how you can turn Raspberry Pi or a Nook into your own Cisco router firewall. But let me go ahead and share the screen. So the premise of free, you're always going to think with VMware VirtualBox. VirtualBox is the free on-premise product that you can get. When you go in here, I've already pre-downloaded a Windows variant, but it talks about the different builds. Your builds are important to what you're going to be running. And this we'll talk further when we get more into building a lab. Right now, I just want to go over to meat and potato of how to build a free lab. So in this instance, you know, I'm running a Windows box. So I'm going to want a Windows host. So you literally just click on it and you get the install file. Install is fairly easy. You know, it comes with a user manual. It runs you right through it. Gives you the option if you want to bridge or do a network address translation. For me, I like to run that just because I like to see anonymous traffic. That's just me though. You know, if I was running bridged, you know, I'd be comparing it to a little mini network that I was hosting. So then we talk about Windows, right? So obviously you can get copious amounts of free VMs for Linux. Linux is always going to be, you know, the freest unless you start talking about the high dollar like Red Hat or, you know, anything that you're running, you know, super databases on. But in this case, they have a couple of the red hats, some CentOS and Ubuntu. Ubuntu is going to be one of your bread and butter if you choose it. Reason I say that is because you can do more functionality when you talk about Blue Team with. One that's not listed on here is the Kali distribution, and you can get that right from the Kali Linux website on offensivesecurity.com. But then we go over to developer.microsoft.com, Windows downloads virtual machines. All right, so this gives you the ability to make a copy of a Windows 10 workstation. You have the choices of VMware, Hyper-V, and VirtualBox. In this topic, we're going to cover VirtualBox. VMware you have to pay for, but you are paying for stability, whereas VirtualBox is free and it's less managed. Parallels doesn't really have any weight nowadays, especially with Docker, coming out and doing more APIs. Hyper-V, if you have Windows Pro, you can totally use Hyper-V and create some VMwares through there. Then I'm going to go to sysprobs.com. Sysprobs.com, you'll have access to download a lot of pre-installed virtual boxes, a lot of them. And when I say that, I've got a website open right here just for Windows. Drops down to Windows. You can choose which one you want to download. Windows 98, Service Edition, Windows 7, Windows 8.1, 10, server variants. Now, I like to call out these two because before we even started this conversation, me and Alex were talking about ICS and SCADA. Right? These are going to be your less managed systems that are in dire need of cybersecurity maintenance. Right? These are going to be your machines that are buried underground. Just, I've seen one that was running Windows 95 before. Right? You can still get these operating systems in the wild. I think it was CNET downloads. You can get a copy of Windows NT. Windows NT is going to be your predominant versus Windows XP that you do see on ICS and SCADA. When we talk about Linux, again, it talks about the different kernels that you have available for this. So, again, so here you got Kubuntu, right? It was literally, it's just a different database variant of Ubuntu. So when you talk about Linux, each database is still a Nix, right? It's still Linus, but each has its own flavor, and that's why Linux has flavors versus operating systems. So in my instance, I downloaded Ubuntu. I got my image from here. And then we scroll over to gns3.com. All right, so gns3.com, this is a place where you can download a free router sim. All right, so router sims are awesome. If you are just now getting into, let's say, Network Plus or networking fundamentals, and you want to actually play around with a router without breaking some companies, this is where you go. You download your router, you run it in the background. In this case, instead of PuTTY, you'll be using the SolarWinds variant, not the SolarWinds that was compromised. This is totally different. This is a died down version of SolarWinds, so it's not in the wild. But you can actually go in there, set user, set interface, do your config file, do your access control list, do your black hole IP list, make your ACLs, put off on the side and create a VLAN. You can do all this. So, if you are trying to go for a NetSec type job, you definitely want to play around with this if you've never done it live. Again, this is all about showcasing that you're at home, you had the passion and a drive enough to get hands-on and work on this. Next one is the one I like, right? So we talk about VulnHub. I refer to this as your free way of getting the try hack me or hack the box type vulnerable VMs. And you download them, you throw them in your one of your VM clusters, and you play around with it, whether it's cracking the password, um, you know, capturing a few flags, what have you. And then we're going to talk about VMware. So VMware is the paid version when you talk about VMs. They're not too overly priced. The one that you're going to want is Workstation, GM Workstation. Where are you? GM Workstation.
Control F.
Oh. Okay, Workstation Pro. All right. So here's the cool thing. A lot of people won't tell you because it's bordering on the ethics, but you download a free trial. You download a free trial. The great thing about VMs is you create snapshots. Right. So snapshots is an instance of that VM that you want to save. This is why VMs have taken over things like thin clients, where I can give a user an entire workstation, and it goes around with them wherever they go. They log on, they're right where they left off. So you can download a free trial, create you a snapshot, and just keep rolling the date back on it and continuing it. Just know that you're not going to have the latest and greatest updates. That's just how it is, right? And that's pretty much it. That's all I'm going to cover as far as this. I'm not going to actually spin mine up. I got to clean it up if I'm going to do a little mini into what my realm is. Actually, let me see real quick. I might. I wonder. Spin it up in the background and see what I got hung in it so far. Let's see. Later. Okay, here we go. Actually, I will. I'll share. This is Ubuntu. All right. So what I did, I'm using VMware Pro, obviously because I want a more stable platform. So what I did is, so I got an Asus Tough, right? So I got a laptop that's built to where I can do synonymous blue team testing on it. And that's running stuff like Wireshark, which will totally bog down your system if you're not paying attention to it, because it captures a lot of data very quick, especially if you're streaming something like YouTube or a movie or a song. It's downloading that cache in the background. So if you're not paying attention when you stop the recording of your Wireshark, you may have just saved like a 20 gig capture, and remember where it's at. Stop. Oh, was it load? No. Yes. No. Yeah, it's trying to load. That's the one bad thing about VMs. Either they can turn on real quick or they're going to lag. I think it's going to lag because a lot of the power is being used to resume. I did fire up my Windows 10 eval. So let's see which one comes up first. Oh no. How Microsoft of that. Okay, Ubuntu. All right. So the cool thing with Ubuntu, again, we talk about free stuff. Uh, Again, totally proponent of it. I'm starting to dabble in coding because I've never done any language since I've been in. And through Ubuntu, you can get a great thing called Notepad++. Right. So my Notepad++, what I do, is I'll grab my little Python for Dummies book and I'll practice some of the standard, hello worlds, type scenario, easy cheat codes, right? Notepad++ will give you red that it's a broken code until you finish it. So you know it's not a full code until it clears its error. So this specific one is 20.10 build. The TLS build that you'll see, or the 16 build that you'll see, will have a Wildcat in the background. Yeah, it's still loading up all this stuff. Now, this is doing automatic repair because when I first started this up, I was actually preparing it for a demonstration of a lab, starting one up. And then I stopped it in the middle. So everybody knows that when you start a Windows, reboot or reconfigure or anything like that, or repair, it's going to error out and you're going to have to do it all over again. But the good thing it's a VM. So if I wanted to, I can go up here, cancel out, and it's gone. Don't have to worry about it anymore. But, well, come on. Oh, hello. Getting somewhere. Are you able to see the files when I click up here, or to go right out?
Okay.
Like, let's say I right click and go to settings on this bad boy. Are you able to see it?
Yep.
All right. So the cool thing about a VM. So this is one of the things that I messed up on before I started this up. You can give it virtual processors. You can beef this up to the amount of processors that you have on your computer. So in my case, I have 16. I have a quad octa-core. So 32 processors at my disposal. I gave it a fixed disk of 40 gig. I'm not trying to absorb a lot of data on it, because I want it just to be able to run a few things and be done with it. It's not going to be a full build per se. If I was going to do it for a full build, I'm going to make a dynamic allocation size. That way it grows as I continue to add containers and APIs to it. So that's why this is bogged down. So I'll go ahead and close it out. But that is the gist of literally starting up a free lab. So simple. Anybody could do it. There's a lot of YouTubes out there. My personal suggestion is find a mentor, right? Because a mentor is going to help you identify what kind of lab you want to build. There is no singular lab built for one individual. That's why there's VMs galore out there. I might build a VM, that I want to run, let's say, Suricata on for a little bit, or Security Onion, just to get some IDS practice. Well, I have the option because it's really not a huge file when you create a VM. You tell it the size that you want it to be. So I can hold it onto an external hard drive. And then, when I want to revisit it, I launch it back up. A cool thing about what you can do with these VMs, especially when you start talking about Windows 10, is you can start learning your Microsoft baseline skills. Right, so Microsoft Baseline, you can go on the Microsoft website, download it, it's free, and you can keep doing baseline configuration checks. It's going to run against your drivers. It's going to run against everything that's on your computer except bloatware. Now, bloatware is something that you'll have to learn. When you go out and buy, a laptop or a desktop from a Best Buy or a Walmart or anywhere like that, it's going to have bloatware. That's how they were able to get the price of that computer so low. All right. This is why when you go on to like Newegg, MSI, or places where you build your own laptop or your own desktop, you can literally say that I just want Windows 10. That is it. I don't want a browser. I'll put my own browser on there. You have the ability to put everything you on there that you want. That way you don't have to go through your system settings and start stopping all the crap you don't need. For instance, on this computer alone, I have one that pops up for my Radeon software, because all in all, this is a gaming laptop built for 3D. So it always wants to reach out and, get the most optimized setting. I hope you enjoyed. Our next event that we're going to be hosting is going to be 23 April, 4 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, Veterans Breaking into IT Cybersecurity Volume 2. I got some great lineups as far as guest speakers coming. I have James J. Azar, CISO for Confidential. He's a CSO and co-founder of the Cybersecurity Podcast that does tech talks and tech town halls. I got a vice president of a data mining company coming. I have an insider threat evangelist coming. His whole focus over the last more so of a decade is creating insider threat training and cyber awareness training for different chapters and different departments in an organization. Because that's another thing that you need to understand is insider threats might be different per department, right? So let's say maintenance might not have the same type of insider threat that you would have in accounting. See, what he does is he tries to tailor make, training plans just for that. I have James Hervey Oxendine, sorry. He is a U.S. Fleet Cyber Command officer that's retiring. He's going to be here for questions and answers, provide some mentorship. I have quite a few people, obviously. I got Alex Rhodes. Alex Rhodes is going to be participating. I'll be there, obviously. I'm going to have a threat intel analyst. So if threat intel is something that sounds like something you might enjoy, get your pen and paper and some questions ready. I'm bringing these guys to you and gals to where you can ask questions to figure out, is that the path you want to go? How do they get where they're at? Everybody that has volunteered to guest speak has all volunteered to be your mentor. Pro bono, no charge, right? When you start talking about mentorship and coaches, just remember, you pay for a coach at a gym. You don't pay for a mentor at a gym. A mentor is there when you pass or fail. Coach is there for money. And that's going to wrap it up for tonight. So I hope you see you there. Hope to see you there. And so should be getting our next shotgun segment together. Our first official. I hope you enjoyed this. If you're a part of my network, and you're one of our proteges, we will be calling on you to showcase. Again, this is our mechanism to line you up for the career that you're trying to get, that you have passion in. Do a little mock interview, right? A little 30-second elevator pitch. I'm going to do one on Alex. Alex has a career right now, right? Because practice what you are, right? Practice as if you are still hunting a job, as if you were trying to get a job within the organization you're already in, right? Because at the end of the day, you interview all the time.
Oh yeah.
It's just getting comfortable doing it. Um, Alex, you got anything before we close up?
Yeah. If anybody needs anything, you can find me on LinkedIn. I do some mentorship on Veterati. Reach out. We'll answer questions.
Awesome. Now, I just got doing a vets to industry. If you're a veteran or active duty or a spouse, military family, and you're in the middle of a transition, or you're separating, or you've been out for a while and you never heard of vets to industry, definitely reach out to them. Right. My banner was called out. Right. So when you talk about branding yourself, I branded myself. I'm a veteran and I'm trying to break into IT cybersecurity. I listed what credentials I have, right? Oh, damn it. Right. So, it's just something silly like this that you can put on the back screen now that we're doing all these virtual interviews. Showcase your talent, right? At the end of the day, when your resume goes through a robot and the recruiter gets your resume from you again, who's to say by the time you get to the panel that they have it in front of them and they know you have CDPSE, CASP, Security Plus? Right there, I have Scrum Foundations and freaking Project Management Essentials. I just got this one, the ISO 27001 ISMS for free, right? And that's the premise behind this engagement, veterans breaking into IT cybersecurity. We want to be as cost effective, meaning free, as we can to provide you guidance, training, and education so you can break the walls down into cybersecurity. That sum it up, Alex?
Yeah. Sounds good.
Without further ado, have a good day, have a good night, and hope to see you at the next event.